We removed that physical scaffolding, but we didn't replace it with digital equivalents.
We're finding ways to fill that time and be even more busy and be more quote unquote productive.
The gains we've made in personal productivity have been offset by greater losses in collective productivity.
Different guests, different conversations, but the same patterns kept showing up. Now, you might not call work broken, but does it feel harder? Welcome to Design Nerds Anonymous. I'm your host, Amanda Schneider. Now, this episode will feel a little different from others this season. It's not a recap, it's a pattern. A look between the surface at why work feels more complicated than it should across roles, industries, and teams, and why so many of us are feeling the same friction at the same time. So if you felt that, you're not imagining it. Over this past season, we sat down with leaders, designers, and topical experts exploring the day-to-day reality of how work is actually getting done today. Different perspectives, same tensions. Because the way that we're working hasn't kept up with what work now requires. We're operating within work norms that were simply built for a different pace, a different level of complexity, and a very different set of expectations. And when those frameworks don't evolve, friction shows up everywhere. And here's what's interesting. While this may feel new, this tension between people, process, and environment is something the interior design industry has been navigating for decades. You see, design sits at the intersection of how work should happen and how it actually does. We've all, as an industry, been thinking about behavior, space, tools, and experience, not in isolation, but as a system. Which means we're not just reacting to this particular moment in time. We are looking at things as a lens for understanding it. And more importantly, looking to the role that we can play in what comes next. Now, that is what this episode is about. Not just what's changing, but what's underneath it. It's also what led me to write my book, Work for What's Next, to take a step back, connect the dots, and explore what it will take to make work, well, work again. And what I started to realize is that these aren't isolated issues. Everything we're going to talk about today is part of a broader set of shifts, reshaping how work actually functions. Now, in the book, I break it into 10 fundamental shifts. This episode is just a glimpse of a few of them. The first one is this. We upgraded tools, but not how we work. Now, as Deb Golden stated in our first episode this season.
Right now, for many companies, the software is glitching. We have burnout, we have disconnection, we have fragmentation. If you're to mandate any approach, whether that be return to the office or something else, you're attempting to fix that glitch by rebooting the hardware. But if the code is bad, the building's not going to fix it.
Simply put, we're trying to solve a systems-level problem with surface-level fixes. Adding tools, maybe mandating locations, adjusting policies. But here's what's changed. Work itself went digital. Not digital only, but digital first. And we never redesigned work for that. In fact, most of the rules around work that we're still using were designed in an analog era. A more physical workflow with more visible cues and more built-in structure. So many of our traditional rules around work, we could say, were built for an era that no longer exists. A world where work hours happened on assembly lines, when we had to work 9 to 5. But today, knowledge work can happen anytime, and some work best early while others work best late. They were built for a time when technology couldn't connect us the way that it can today. We had to be in the same place. But today, we can collaborate from anywhere. These rules were built around when work was individual output, and it could be measured by measuring a person's output. But today, work is interconnected, and progress depends on how people work together. For some, this moment feels like disruption. Certainly, we've felt that over the past 5 years. But for others, it just feels like the system is finally revealing its cracks. Cracks like burnout. Cracks like decisions that take longer than they should. And what we're seeing in our data is a growing gap in trust. between people, teams, and organizations. So when that structure disappeared around work and its one analog location, nothing fully replaced it, or at least we didn't agree on that. And when that gap goes unaddressed, it's not just frustrating for individuals, it's expensive for businesses. Now, some of you listening would argue that the problem is hybrid work. Or maybe you're feeling like we just have too many tools, or maybe you want to blame it on generations and a generational gap. But I want to challenge that those are symptoms, not the cause. Today, we're not just working differently, we're thinking about work differently. Work was a noun, but now it's a verb, meaning it's not just a place you go, the noun, but now it's something you do. That's the verb. What changed is this. Work became more complex, more connected, and less visible, all at the same time.
I'm so proud to introduce Mannington Commercial and Cindy Coffin as a Season 10 sponsor of Design Nerds Anonymous. Mannington and Cindy herself have been alongside me, not only in the research, but also in the writing of this book.
Mannington Commercial has been a longtime sponsor of DNA. And one of the reasons I'm so proud of that is because DNA is the voice of our industry.
I'm so thrilled that you've been a partner for so long on DNA. What are the changes that you think people are struggling to solve?
It's a tough time to be a designer because you're dealing with a lot of information, but the responsibility lies on the shoulders of our industry for a great deal of what our future as a civilization looks like.
What is Mannington Commercial doing to really address some of these challenges?
We are committed to being fully transparent with everything that we do and the way that we do it. So that transparency really supports designers having access to all of the information that they need to make the right decisions clearly and plainly and transparently as possible.
If you could invite our podcast listeners, what would you say to them?
I think human beings are the differentiator. So I invite you to connect with a Mannington Commercial rep to learn more, not just about our new products, but how we think and how we show up for you as your design partner.
So the second thing that starts to break down shows up in how we communicate. Today, we could all agree we have more ways to connect with one another than ever before, more channels, more tools. But all of that communication certainly hasn't made it easier to understand what actually matters. If anything, it's made it harder. Because access and quantity of communication does not necessarily equal alignment. And activity doesn't equal clarity. As Gideon with Canva shared in episode 5 this past season,
I've seen Gen Z get particularly overwhelmed by too much communication and not knowing where to start.
But I think we could all agree it's not just Gen Z. We've all had these days lately. You open Slack, then email, then Teams. You can't remember where that person told you that thing. Or maybe you join a meeting where half the people didn't do the prep that you asked them to. Maybe those that join are camera off, and how are you supposed to read the room? Sometimes you leave with more follow-ups than decisions. And by the end of the day, while you were busy the entire time, you're not sure what actually moved forward. And I want to challenge that this information overload is only going to grow as AI enters the picture, as Dr. J.J. Peterson with StoryBrand shared in episode 5 this season.
We have shorter attention spans, fewer chances to be in the rooms together. So there's the necessity to be more and more clear.
And I think he's done a great job of just naming the tension. There's more ways to communicate, but less clarity than ever. And when that clarity breaks down, everything else starts to slow down with it. So that brings me to the third shift, not just in how we communicate, but in how that work is getting done. As work speeds up, decisions slow down. Simply put, even though everything feels faster, decisions don't. In fact, they're getting harder. There are more inputs, more stakeholders, more visibility into everything, which sounds like progress, but it's often creating hesitation. When everything feels important, it becomes harder to know what matters most. And when that happens, decisions don't speed up, they stall. This is where many organizations think that they have a speed problem, when what they really have is an alignment problem. And it's costing them time, talent, and momentum. You can hear that tension in how people describe work today. Here's how our guest, Eric Taramundi, put it in episode 2.
As the world continues to be more uncertain and changing faster than ever before, in order to speed up, first we have to slow down and then accelerate into the future, as uncertain and as unknown as it might be.
But of course, that's easier said than done. In fact, most teams don't feel like they have time today to do the strategic work to create that alignment. So instead, they keep moving. They keep getting stuck. This velocity isn't just about speed, it's how teams move together. And when that starts to fragment, work doesn't just slow down, it starts to expand into more meetings, more follow-ups, more time spent trying to get unstuck. We are unknowingly creating problems as a result of trying to solve them. And eventually, we're all feeling this. It spills beyond the workday altogether. So here's the tension underneath all of it. We've added more tools to make work easier, but somehow, ironically, it's made work feel harder. None of these shifts are happening in isolation. They compound, which is why the friction feels so constant. And when you follow that all the way through, there's a fourth shift that starts to show up. Not just in how work happens, but in how it feels. The more individuals optimize, the more teams start to struggle. And that feels like a trade-off where no one wins. Because now we've created a world, a wonderful world, where you can work anytime and anywhere. But that can also mean that you can work all the time and everywhere. At first, that feels like freedom, more flexibility, more autonomy, but without healthy or clear boundaries, it becomes something else. When work is always available, it's hard to know when you're actually done. So the workday feels like it never ends. Meetings all day, then emails on the couch in the evening. Most employees feel boundaryless, like they have to work outside of traditional work hours just to stay afloat. And over time, that doesn't just impact morale or productivity, it starts to impact energy. It starts to impact trust and how people feel about their work. But that's only half the story. We've given individuals more freedom without redesigning the norms around them. So everyone is starting to optimize for themselves in a system that still expects everyone to work the same way. So the question should no longer be, how do we get everyone to work the same way? It should be this, again, from Deb Golden in episode 1.
How do we build systems that are flexible enough to support different working styles, life stages, cognitive approaches? The goal isn't to force everyone into the same template. It's to design a platform where different types of talent can plug and perform.
And that's the shift. It's not just about flexibility. It's about mass personalization. Not everyone just working however they want, but frameworks designed so that different people can succeed within them. Because when individuals optimize without shared structure, teams struggle. And when teams can't operate together, performance doesn't just plateau, it quietly erodes along with trust in one another. But when the architecture of work is designed intentionally, both can perform.
As the home of NeoCon for decades, the MART was built on the power of physical presence. You came to Chicago, you walked the floors, you experienced it in person. That foundation still matters, perhaps now more than ever. But we've also taken to heart the reality that how people engage has changed. ThinkLab's data shows that one of the things professionals value most at NeoCon is CEU education. Today, many more designers are accessing that content through our digital platform, dramatically expanding reach while strengthening the in-person experience. That shift wasn't about replacing what worked. It was about building upon it. We believe that leadership in this industry means the willingness to rethink, to evolve, and to serve our communities in new ways. For NeoCon 2026, we've introduced several new product offerings, including Illuminated NeoCon, a show within a show featuring design-focused architectural and decorative lighting, and the NeoCon Collab, a curated, multi-brand environment that will create an elevated, inspirational experience in our 7th floor exhibit hall. And we're proud to continue shaping what's next. together.
This season of Design Nerds Anonymous is supported by the MAV Group, an executive search and coaching firm in the design and furniture industry. I have personally seen how deeply they understand this community. Today, I'm joined by Angela Burke, CEO of the MAV Group. Angela, what are you hearing right now?
Well, the industry isn't just changing, it's changing hands. And leadership development cannot be an afterthought. Across firms, manufacturers, and dealerships, seasoned leaders are planning for what's next, while emerging leaders are stepping into significant roles faster than ever before. Creative excellence doesn't automatically translate to leadership excellence. So here at the MAV Group, we help organizations hire exceptional leaders and coach them to drive lasting impact. Because what's next for this industry isn't only about design, it's about leadership.
Learn more at themavgroup.com. The MAV Group, leaders for what's next. All right, let me start to wrap this up by what it really means. I want to suggest that we didn't break work, we outgrew it. Whether we realize it or not, we're already shaping the future of work every day. But it's either on purpose or by accident. And the exciting thing is we get to choose. And that's exactly why this moment matters. Because the systems we're operating in are still being formed. They're still being tested and being defined. And if we don't pause to question the rules that we've inherited, the norms that feel so natural in an analog world, we'll keep reinforcing the very problems we're trying to solve. It means the friction so many teams are feeling right now isn't failure. It's feedback. This is not about fixing people or one generation fixing another, or even going back to what worked before. It means we're in a moment where work is being defined in real time. And the organizations that recognize that and choose to redesign for it won't just keep up, they'll lead. If you're seeing any of this on your teams, with your clients, or in your own day-to-day work, that's exactly why I wrote Work for What's Next. Not just to name what's changing, but to give you a clear way to think about it. And a starting point for what to do next. The question isn't whether work will change. It's whether we'll change it on purpose. You'll find links in the show notes to order your copy. And if you want to bring these ideas into your own organization through conversations, workshops, or deeper dialogue, feel free to reach out to me, Amanda Schneider, on LinkedIn. Because this next chapter of work isn't something we wait for. It's something we should design. Oh, and one more note. If you're curious to hear more from the voices we featured in this episode, all of the quotes that you heard came from conversations across this season with some of our brilliant guests. So let me personally invite you to scroll back through the previous episodes in this feed and go deeper into each of these ideas while you wait for your book to ship or for your audiobook to download. I hope you'll join me and work for what's next. Design Nerds Anonymous is a proud member of the Surround Podcast Network. Special thanks to our podcast production team, Rachel Senator and Rob Schulte.